Welcome to this episode of Freshman's Podcast, the newbie friendly podcast for new and aspiring NFT traders, creators, and collectors. NFT stands for non-fungible token. And if you have ever wondered how people make money from this and if it's all just a big scam, hang out with us and hear the good, the bad, and the ugly stories from ordinary people who are simply trying to do something extraordinary. By way of a disclaimer, no part of this interview is financial advice. Crypto and NFT investments are speculative. You can lose all of the money that you invest. Only invest what you can afford to lose. And today I'm here with Vishad Doshi, inner peace walker, mindset transformer, and newly baked NFT investor. Welcome, Vishad. I'm thrilled to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Cheers, Christine, for that welcome. Very nice and pleased to be on your podcast. I'm doing well, thank you. Just take care of all the various threads, of which NFT and crypto is now a part of it. And yeah, really looking to this, looking forward to this conversation.
Amazing. So let's start off strong. Can you share a bit about your journey and how did you get into NFTs and what inspired you to invest?
Yeah, sure. So my journey's been relatively short-lived. I've only started to delve into it since November last year, and it came about from a coach that Christine and I both know. It was actually the first episode of the show, Brian Campbell, who posted in a mutual school group that we're in on school, and he posted about a new way to make money work for you, because his idiom is about, instead of just going at your day job, whether it's coaching or service providing, whatever you do, earning your salary, spending it, and then having to start the cycle again and trying to find more people to get, more interest in your business, make more sales, make more money. How about trying to make the money work for you? And his mathematical background and curiosity into the world of, cryptocurrency and NFTs inspired him to go, okay, I'm going to make my first steps into it. So as someone who's, been at the forefront of ideas and is always proactive and moving, I kept an eye on that conversation. I say, what's that actually about? Because the terminology, the use of the words crypto and NFTs first said to me, what are they? I've heard of them, but I don't know anything about them. NFT, I know, stands for non-fungible token, but I just thought that's just someone just made a picture and that's somehow being flogged for money that isn't money. It's this currency that's made up type thing. So I'm like, okay, let's have a look at how this conversation's going. And his initial thoughts, okay, we'll pick one NFT to essentially micromanage between himself and people that are also interested in getting on board. And the initial sort of numbers he started off in terms of initial investment, initial outlay were very sort of manageable. You're talking like, $10 here, $20 here. So that piqued my curiosity a bit, but still I'm like, okay, see how this actually is running. He also did emphasize that, look, in the world of, finance and, investment sector of this nature, time is critical. Now, by no means was it a pressure to go, right, do it right now. You're done for, that kind of thing. But it's more kind of like, the quicker we can get interest, and maybe we can start to make some first steps. So, putting all that together, I'm like, okay, I've known Brian for a little while. He's been at the forefront of, as I said, ideas, and he's very proactive in moving and getting ideas into action, out of his mind and onto into reality. And I thought, okay, he's not calling for a massive like investment, etc. It's like it's a very much a very light toe dip into the water. And he also took the time to explain in relatively basic language about what to do, how this works, and also the principles behind it, without it all getting lost in the maths. He put it down into very simple, mathematical terms, so you didn't just get lost of the idea. So putting all that together, like, okay, I can make a first step. Be very minimal. Even if that, disappeared, I can absorb that. As Christine alluded to in the first point, it's all about only putting in what you can comfortably afford all round.
Yeah.
So putting all that together, I made that initial investment, got the one or two items. And, at the time, his recommendation is buy it and then put it on sale straight away. So you get in the habit of just seeing how it works. You buy it, you put it on sale for a little bit of a higher price, you get some money back. That's essentially how it's all going to work. It's not always going to be as simple as that for sure, but it just gets you into a bit of familiarity with the mechanics of the GUI and the actual financial dynamics. And look, from there, we've just grown the community with more people, more ideas, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that's essentially my first steps. I'm very new. It's only been what 2 and a bit months collectively, but in that time we've moved on and into a place where okay, it's still growing, we're still learning, but yeah, it's been an all right start.
Yeah, I would say it's been definitely an all right start. And you certainly seem like you had a good start to your investor journey and you're enjoying yourself, which is also part, I think, of the NFT world. People want to have a bit of fun and, they
Yeah.
kind of distance themselves a little bit from the regular finance sector and the stock market, which is very serious and perceived as very,
Mm.
archaic in some circles now. So it's nice to see you talking about it with so much passion and enthusiasm. So, as a mindset transformer, you do a lot of shadow work. And how did your own mindset evolution influence your decision to explore the NFTs? Is there a connection? Was there a connection?
No, it's a great question. When I first saw it, I was okay, that's a really good thing to talk about. So for me, my mindset evolution comes from the programming experiences I've had previously when it comes to things like revenue generation, earning money, what to do with it. And I'll put it down to two facets. In the world of investments, people may have heard of things like risk profiling. So it's the idea that whatever you're about to invest in, someone of like the financial advisor ilk will ask you, right, what's your attitude towards, and they give you hypothetical scenarios, and you sort of rate yourself going, I know much about investments, or and you go yes or highly disagree or highly strongly agree. Those kind of questions. So basically, get you trying to tease out the answers of what's your attitude to risk. Now, what that means is financial advisors can help plan right because you're not very risk minded, you're on the cautious side. We can go for investments that are very, very safe. It means you can put your money in and it will just sit there and grow very slowly and steadily, but it tunes to your risk profile. Whereas someone who's going, do you know what, I can push the boat out a bit more, I can be a bit more riskier, then they introduce more elements of okay, I can put your money in this investment, but the gains can be high, but the low losses can be high as well. So, but your risk profiling says, you know what, I'm all right with that. So to me, that's all about, and I'll go talk about this later in the show about core human needs. Some people like that human need of certainty and control. They want to make sure that, right, I've put that money away and it will tick over. And when I come back to it, I won't have lost anything. I'll have gained a little bit. Whereas someone with a more um, risk attuned profile would be like, right, I put some money in, I'll come back to it later. I might have lost it, but I might have gained loads. So that's the risk that they're trading off with essentially the money put in. And then into the mix, I also add the concept of the money mindset. What is your attitude towards money in general? So that alludes to questions like, do you feel like you're earning enough? Is there a comparison involved? Like am I earning enough compared to other people? Do I like risking money? Do I just want to save money? Do I like spending money? Do I want to, save money? All these kind of questions. So all that put together said to me that my own evolution is about being safe and having that certainty and control need met, especially through money. So as I mentioned before, my decision to step into the world of NFT was from that trust I had with Brian, from working with him, interacting with him on previous occasions, etc. Not putting all my eggs in one basket with him though, because the main
Mm,
appeal, as I mentioned before, was that low level commitment to start with. That I
yes.
felt that okay, my situation now and my risk profiling and my money mindset says I can comfortably afford to put this tiny investment into play, and also as an opportunity to get involved in something that could potentially be big. As I said, we're very new and we're all learning the ropes and making our first steps and headway. But the terminology that you hear like crypto and NFTs, from media and wider awareness, that like you could be looking at big figures here. Yes, a lot
Mm,
of things have to go in your favor and correctly, but
yes.
like if this is a low level opportunity with from someone you trust that like you can earn big seemed like a good opportunity. And to that, I also added that, well, Brian will have done this research and the work and the maths behind it. So he's not just going to, he's not taking a punt on something. He's just gone, right, okay, I've worked it out. The numbers look healthy, if we did this, etc. So I'm like, okay, um, he's got this confidence about it. He's got the passion. And we step together going forward. And I said, we're by no means the experts and it's always going to go right, but it feels like we're making that step together. So to come back to the actual question about shadow work, all those parts about risk aversion, money mindset, they're all sitting there. Because with them, we'll carry beliefs, patterns, experiences that might sort of add to the conversation with yourself about what you're trying to do. Because you see that word crypto or you see the word NFT and immediately gone, fuck, I could lose shitloads here, or I'm going to step right away from that. Especially if it was someone that I don't really know about, I've not had the interaction with them previously. So that's where, those ideas and patterns and beliefs will kick in, saying, no, you don't want to lose money, full stop. You're risk averse anyway. So that looks like laden with risk, so step away. But the evolution here is to go, okay, I can make that decision. So speaking from my own self-worth, which I'm all about, as you know, to make that decision for myself. So the connection comes from understanding where you are, identifying it, and then implementing what works for you. It doesn't have to be a massive step straight away going, right, I'm going to chuck everything in, because it's absolutely not the way to go. And definitely it's not something we want to advocate or propose. It's just making the step that you feel is right for you with complete assurance and safety first from your own perspective. But that's how I feel the two elements of shadow work and the evolution of it helped me in NFT management.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that, when it comes to shadow work, that's the crux of the matter? Is it that sort of helping hand that helps you to navigate the highs and lows of the volatile NFT market and the emotions it can spark? Because when I was on the show with Brian the other day, we talked about, the floor price dropping, where you think it's going up and then somebody will just drop the floor. So list an NFT at a very low price because maybe they had it free, or maybe they bought it when it was really cheap and they can afford to price it, 20% lower, 50% lower than what you're trying to sell something for. And maybe that erases your margin or it makes it a longer wait for you. And of course, that can spark a panic. And you see people selling stuff off at a loss when actually maybe if they were more patient and they had their emotions under control more, they would have still made a gain and benefited from the upswing after the dip was over. What's your thoughts on that? How can shadow work support that?
Now, it's a great example actually, because as I say, it's something we experienced in our world relatively early on. And the first thing I'll say on that is one of the key facets of shadow work is to give acceptance to those parts in the first place. So when something like the floor price happens to fall, or someone airdrops in near zero price stock. So for those not familiar, this is essentially the idea that you're trying to build a price up by buying the cheapest items of the floor, so the price of an NFT naturally rises. But if someone then goes and puts a load of stock at a lower price, then the floor price drops down. So essentially, as Christine was alluding to, erodes your value, etc. And that can give rise to emotions like annoyance, frustration, because you're trying to progress your own value and increase your wealth and opportunity, and by definition, everybody else's. But then this move that is out of your control has happened, and that gives rise to frustrations and annoyance. So the first part here is to go, that is okay. Those emotions are okay. We don't have to act on them and sort of linger on them forever, but they are important to acknowledge what we're feeling. The next step here is to then actually look beyond the symptom. So, okay, you can get frustrated, you can get annoyed, but there's an opportunity here to ask yourself, what's behind this emotion? Another one I'll put in for now, alongside annoyance and frustration, if we look at it the other way around, is jealousy. So what I mean by jealousy is, if you think back to our early times in the NFT space, the opportunity there was to buy. So we were all in the first NFT called Wukong, which was an established NFT, which was something we were choosing to dabble in. And the opportunity there was to buy very low, raise your price yourself, sell them, and make a small profit. That was the choice that was put out there as an option. Not saying you have to do that, but that's what's possible. There are some that chose to hold it to sell it in future for a higher price and therefore make a larger gain. But obviously that involves the time waiting, so the bit of patience. But the jealousy stems from if you saw someone make those sales, make that bit of money, and then post about it saying, "Oh, I just made some profit," that's going to trigger jealousy. You're like,
Mm.
fuck, they got a bit of money now. I want some of that money. Then it clashes with your own perspective and risk
Mm.
profile, like I said before, saying, but no, you want to hold stock. You're not in this to just, make a bit of quick money and off we go. You want to hold it. That's your thing, right? You want to increase the value, etc. So what's behind it? Well, the jealousy stems from the fact that they're doing something that you're trying hard to suppress. So the jealousy
Mm.
actually comes from the freedom that they're exhibiting, and freedom is one of our big tenets. They're doing something that you're trying to hold back. So they're essentially being more free than you are. So, what do we do with all this? What you can first do is, as I said before, accept your emotions, take your own responsibility, because look, whatever they get up to is up to them. Whether they, sell Wukong for a profit or whatever NFT for a profit, or they airdrop cheap stock to put the floor price down. What you can do is you take responsibility for yourself and you can bring it back to your core human needs. So, in this case, the annoyance and the frustration, which equates to jealousy, is, as I said before, someone's exhibiting behavior that you don't agree with. You want to wait for the longer term growth because that meets your need for certainty and control. I'm holding my stock. I know the price is going to go up because that's the belief you have, and I will make the money later. But somebody else is getting the money now. But funnily enough, there's another core human need as well here called uncertainty and variety. So, what you're introducing yourself is going, all right, I can hold it and I'll get more money in the future, but I can also get money now. What you've done, you've opened up your possibilities. You can go short term, you can go long term. Now, that uncertainty and variety means I don't know when I'll technically do what. Today might be a good time to um, sell. And,
Mm.
we're learning that, the opportunity is now rather than waiting sometimes, or you could continue to hold it. So that gives you uncertainty because you don't know where that's coming from. So the need aspect here is that we all want that as humans. We want a bit of change and variety and stuff like that rather than just doing the same thing. Now that might sound counterintuitive to people, and that's fine, but essentially what we're saying here is give acceptance to the emotions, but then ask yourself what's going on behind the symptom. So when we do experience the highs and the lows, ask yourself, what does that mean for me? Feel the emotions that they're okay, but also we don't need to, as you mentioned before, go into panic mode, fire sell everything, and then you're like, shit, now I've got regret. So
Yeah.
it does call, as in all walks of life, when we're working ourselves, just pause for a second. What am I seeing? What am I observing?
Mm.
What am I feeling? And then we can act by
Yeah.
either taking in more information, assessing what's going on, maybe even waiting. But again, this it's easy to say, but it does come like with any part of our work with practice.
Mm.
Because there is a temptation, our subconscious would go, right, I need you to be secure. And to meet your need of certainty and control, you need to sell this stuff so you get money right now. And that's your money hidden, like money taken, and that's yours. But there's a part of you going, no, I'll still wait here for a second. So I know it's a bit of a long answer, but I think it's all intertwining. But you mentioned that drop it before we kick the conversation off here.
Mm.
You mentioned the drop in floor price that we saw on our what at that time was our premium asset in the Freedom Eagles. We took a decision as a collective to drop the floor price because of the dynamics of the collections we had going on at the time. So I'm willing to bet a lot of people would have gone, shit, that was my wealth creator. I've just seen
Yeah.
my book value. The book value being right. You've got X many of these NFTs. This is the price you can get for them at the moment if you sold, um, these items. So number of items times the price is your book value. So when we drop the price down, we're like, fuck, my book value's disappeared. And then there was further sort of options given to say, right, cash your items out now to give you funds to invest in these options. But many of us would go, I'm not selling my stock at a loss because it was that just that clear indicator. I
Mm.
bought for X. An option is offered to me to sell at Y, and Y is smaller than X. I'm not selling my stock at a loss. And those emotions would have come out going, what? Frustration, not understanding,
Yeah.
um, disillusionment, going, hang on, what's going on here? But if we paused and gave it more time, the reasoning naturally came out of what's the logic behind the move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's important that we emphasize at this point that this community decision that was made was actually a publicly announced
Yeah,
decision. And
absolutely.
there were places to find out more about this change if
Yes.
people were willing to be part of the community, which is a public community. It's a publicly available community. So there's
Yeah.
nothing hidden. There's no kind of insider trading going on. There's nothing, that's happening behind the scenes. And I think that's important as well, that there are surely scammers out there who are doing, dodgy things behind the
Mm.
scenes, but that the
Mm.
community that you're part of and that Brian has founded, Brian Campbell as the founder, he has done a really good job of making it all public, making it all fair and open. And it's really then, interesting to see how some people, when the emotions take over, don't want to know, don't want to hear, don't want to
Mm.
understand the situation. They just kind of want to hit and cut their losses and run. And
Yeah.
they just kind of want to hit the road at that point, which is fine. There's always going to be those people who are more comfortable cashing out at that point and actually think is good for the collection and for the trades going on. The information that you need to contextualize the shifts in the market are out there if
Yes.
you decide to pay attention to it.
Yeah. And you struck upon a really great point there about the community aspect of it and having that collective faith. That human beings, by definition, are tribal species. We're all kind of meant to be together. We're always looking for ways to be together. It's a core human need of ours. And, you know, going back to one of your first questions, like one of the um, sort of appealing aspects of this all was like, I'm not doing this on my own here.
Mm.
Yes, there's individual decisions to be made about what's good for you, this kind of thing. But when there's a collective behind this, it feels like, okay, we're all looking, we've all got our separate goals as to what we want out of this. And that's always going to be a key question and factor here. But the fact that there's a group of us in this, working towards the same community guidelines and objectives with full transparency and what is going on, then again, it just gives that little bit more of assuredness and maybe in a bit of security as well. And also the idea that you quickly see that you as a small investor can make big differences, like, if you, with your decisions, but if they're sort of decisions that don't work for the collective, then we all suffer, including yourself. So
Mm.
what might look as a beneficial move to you is actually worsening everybody, including yourself, ultimately. So, having that community behind us gives us a space to talk, debate, and make decisions accordingly, both for individually and collectively. But yeah, and that was a big thing for me of like, okay, there's other people that are joining on and getting involved. So it just adds to the effect that this is all having.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we're getting into the Freedom NFT project now, which is
Mm,
obviously the community that you're part of and that, has all achieved all these great changes for a lot of its members, where people are suddenly, going from not having invested in anything ever before to beginning to invest in NFTs with
yeah.
small investments, with cautious strategies and seeing returns on their investments very easily, quite quickly, and then gaining confidence through that. So talk to me about financial freedom and how you define that and how the NFT Freedom Project is all about supporting that.
Yeah, cool. Another great question because ultimately that's what we're looking here for financial freedom. Like, I mentioned when I saw Brian's post about it back in November of like, how do we look to make money work for us, right? You know, people that work for a daily job, they commute somewhere, they do their job, they come home. That's pretty much where we've all come from or what we all regularly do. Those that then look to have their own business felt like, right, this is the thing that will get me the freedom. I can work for myself. I can earn my own money. I can do what I want and that kind of thing. And that still remains. That's still cool. But it's still a job. if you will. Okay, you don't necessarily work for someone, you work for yourself, and that's a little bit different, but it still means you put in some effort or some work in order to gain money back. That's your salary, that's how you earn in that manner. But it still means doing an element of work for it. So Brian's take on it was like, well, how do we make the money we earn work for us? So it is sort of inducing that kind of investor mindset to go, okay, to work on a cycle of I work, I earn money, I spend it, I have to work again. That cycle quickly then becomes the same as you were in the regular world, where you were working for somebody else, get a job, earn money, spend the money, back to work, that kind of thing. So it's like, well, take the money you earn. What if we put it in something that grows while you're going, so that ultimately it could be a substitute? So the financial freedom ultimately comes from I've created something that I don't have to do much work for, as compared to spending hours in a role or a trade or a job or wherever. I've got something on the side here that will replace that. That's ultimately the aim that, myself is looking for that freedom. But what that means for me right now is, to me, that term financial freedom means I can meet my short-term daily expenses comfortably with a mix of either investment income or what I do for a job. As long as those are met, which they are at the moment, anything on top with my life circumstances, etc., at the moment is a relative bonus. But that bonus will keep on growing and growing and growing, so that when my circumstances change, that whole aspect or definition doesn't change. So the Freedom NFT project is a big contributor to this now, because it's the idea that, like standard investments that we're all assured or aware of, like stocks or property or wherever, ISAs, whatever you want to say, this is another thing that can tick along in the background and grow. Yes, with different levels of risk, as we keep alluding to, but this is where the small steps part comes into it. It's like, just take it little by little. No one's, we're not putting everything into it here, as in like, flooding it with life savings or all that kind of thing. Take the little steps, and then see where this goes. So it's essentially like another a cog in the machine, where it's looking to create that sort of salary substitute. But being someone that owns their own business, I'm kind of halfway there anyway, because I'm not working for someone. So what I do is I still enjoy. We said before the call, like what we do, we still enjoy. So it's not as if like, right, if Freedom NFT project gave me that income substitute, that right, that's it, I'm an easy street. I don't do anything ever. No, we'll still do what we do because we like doing it. But then that freedom just comes from, well, okay, I've got my obligations met, short term, long term, so I can actually do this and maybe even have the income to do more of the stuff I enjoy. So ultimately, it's a definition that is both flexible and stable at the same time, depending on what's going on.
It's a lovely definition, Vishad. I'm very, very jealous of it. I need to think about it more for myself as well. Taking into account everything we've talked about already, the shadow work we talked about, the personal risk assessment we talked about, the risk profile, and everything we said about the community. Do you think it's possible for somebody to use NFTs not just as an investment, but also as a tool for personal growth and self-expression? Do you think that's possible?
It is possible if you don't just hang your self-worth on it. So what I mean by that is we've alluded to already, right? Only put into NFTs what you can comfortably afford. Do not put the money you would pay for food or your bills or your mortgage on it. Do not do that. So chances are, if you're listening to this and are thinking of making a step into it, you may be thinking into it from a position of having a little bit of spare money. That does not mean your savings, and as we said, not your food or bill money. So it's that spare bit of cash. So you're coming from a perspective of, okay, if this were to be lost, I'm okay with it. It's a bit like making a purchase on a shop, Amazon, eBay, a physical shop, where there's no refund policy. So if you get the thing and say, oh, this wasn't what I expected, oh, I can't give it back. Ugh. It's sunk money. So you're like, okay, I didn't get what I wanted, but no big deal. I didn't put a huge amount into it. So that's the perspective we come from. when we're heading into spaces, we're like, shit, this NFT business has got to make, that's got to be my salary.
Mm.
That's definitely not the way you want to go to. So when we're coming from the space of, I have the spare bit of money, then it can turn into the work on yourself. In that, in the NFT space, chances are you will still make mistakes. Not massive mistakes, not drastic mistakes, but like, you sold something when you could have waited and sold it for a bit more. Mistake in that term. Now, even then, you could look at that and go, where was that mistake? I just made the best decision I could at the time, not knowing that this could happen. So again, that's another rabbit hole. But comfortable with the idea that it's not going to always go the way you want. So you alluded to the big price drop we saw was never part of the initial plan. It was all like it's always going to go up and up and up, but we had to incur that fall, which was like, oh, okay, different. So there'll be ups and downs on the way. But at the same time, what we're doing doesn't define us. It doesn't define our self-worth. So if we did lose our money, it's not like, fuck, see, I can't do it. I don't get it. We can quickly allude it to everything else in our life. Right, I lost that
Mm.
money. I can't keep money. I'm useless. It all piles on. When we start from a place where we've disseminated that in the first place, saying, if that goes, don't matter. Anything else then becomes a bonus. But coming back to another point of the question of not just using it as an investment, well, I've talked about how it can be used as a tool for personal growth. But by pure investment, if you make money out of this, you've got money to invest in yourself. Whether that is paying a bill or investing more in self development, because you've got the monetary aspect of it.
Mm.
So there's monetary gain, but there's also the idea that your personal development comes from, okay, I'm able to handle this. It's essentially that progress in the NFT world can be dialogue with your subconscious. Your subconscious initially would go, I don't know what you're trying to do here with this crypto and NFT business. Let's pull away from that. But you expose yourself to more information. You listen to people, you chat to people, you read about it, you understand it, you get the numbers. So you're having that dialogue with your subconscious going, this is what I'm trying to do. And your subconscious is sitting there going, yeah, I get it. Okay, not that much investment. Okay, that's meant to go up. Okay, yeah, that works. I get that. Yeah, yeah. So it's warming itself to the idea. And then when you experience those little sales of profit or your floor price going up, those positive signs, you're like, okay, I made a decent decision here. I'm in something that seems to be growing. You see that message being spread by other people. So it's not just a unique case. People sharing their wins, people sharing their ideas and the way forward. And ultimately, the last bit of the response here about self-expression, well, the birds collections are just that, right? They're expressions of art and creativity. We've put stories behind these birds and eagles that are, on their own adventure and own journey, right? So it is an expression of creativity. So if, ultimately it winds up that, one of us could make our own NFT collection. That's your chance to be as creative on. We've had the opportunity to have our input onto, right, what does our next collection look like?
Mhm.
You, Christine, essentially made rich birds, right? It's your thing, it's yours, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So
Isn't that
there's
funny?
there's a way of self-expressing, so there's
Absolutely.
there's possibilities on this, but if we just come back to the main um point of, like, we don't have to hang, as with anything in our life, we don't have to hang our self-worth on what we're doing.
Yeah. And that's so important. I think, you gave the perfect example earlier when you said, oh, someone puts in a little bit of money into their NFTs, the floor price goes down, and suddenly they give all these negative feedback to themselves about
Yeah.
how I can't do it. I knew it was going to go wrong. Well, if that's your deep-seated belief, then how is your subconscious going to be able to reinforce a different reality, right? If that is all that you can focus on and you're kind of deep down expecting it to go that way, then that's all that you can really see at that point, and you can't see that maybe it's a temporary loss, and then maybe the other
Mm.
3 or 4 NFTs that you have listed on one of the platforms is suddenly going to swoop up in an upward rise if you just waited a little longer. I think there's a lot to be said about, and I saw this quote on Facebook the other day, but there's a lot to be said about patience and impatience in NFT trading, and how in NFTs it's the impatient selling to the patient. Because ultimately, that's what happens, right? There's people out there, and I've observed this. There's people out there who just make offers. So you can list an
Mm.
NFT. to sell it for a price that you set, or you could just say, I don't care what NFT I get, I just want one and I just want to pay X amount for it and no more. And you could just put that price up as an offer, and anyone who owns an NFT in that space where you've made the offer could decide to take you up on that offer. And then you'd
Hmm.
wake up in the morning and you have an extra NFT in your wallet. And the money that you've committed would have been snapped up by somebody from the offers. And that's a very interesting concept to me because I see some people making really low offers on some of the collections that we all
Yeah.
invest in. And I mean, they're very valuable collections. We've got a great community. People believe, people invest. You see the floor price going up and up and up on a lot of the collections. And then you see somebody selling a free bird from one of our collections for 0.001 when the
Yeah.
floor price was way higher, maybe 150 to 300% higher than that price. And people still sold because they did not believe, right? But that person that made the offer might have had no involvement with the collection. Now they have a random very cheap item that they could list below the floor price to bring it down, or even above the floor price if they're patient. And they could make a 600 to 700% return simply for having waited everyone else out with no commitment whatsoever up front. Because when you make an offer, you can take it back if no one
Yeah.
uses it. Right? So that's the lowest risk way of getting into the game. And I thought that was genius because I once made a really good trade on an offer where when the Freedom Eagles were up to zero point 0.4 or so, no, zero point 0.3 Solana, I made an offer for 0.12 and somebody
Wow.
sold me one of their Eagles for that amount. And I listed it
Wow.
for 3 times the price and sold it. So, you have these satisfying moments if you learn to observe, because you can notice the patterns when you
Mm.
watch what's going on in the market. And I'm not saying you can time the market, don't try and do that. It's
Mm.
not
Mm.
there's nothing predictable about it really other than human nature. That you can guarantee someone will panic, and you can guarantee that at some point somebody will, try and sell something off for cheaper than the floor price because they got it really cheap from one of the offers. So it's a very
Yeah.
interesting dynamic, and that's one of the things that really appealed to me about trading. That it's a lot about human nature. It's actually very much a people business.
Yeah, well put. And what a terrific example of how the mechanics can work if you keep your eyes open, that kind of thing. And look, there may be some people listening to going offers and
Mm,
low price. What the fuck are you on about? But this
yeah,
is one of the points I want to touch on was this isn't a get rich quick overnight thing. The numbers work in terms of like the maths works. Like when I mean the numbers work, I don't mean like you'll always get this. Like this is what
absolutely.
a lot of the maths behind this is about predicted behavior, um, perhaps even expected behavior, but also it's only a depiction of what things can look like. For the reality to happen where you are selling items and getting the money in and cashing it out and all this kind of thing, it's going to have require patience because as Christine says, you don't know when these moves are going to happen. You position everything for
Mm,
things to happen, but when that actually happens is up to the market. Now, there's certain things we can do as a community, like we're doing right now, to help that. That helps everybody, not just one or two people, but to help everybody. But in terms of, making that wealth, making those gains, it's a patience thing. And everybody will have their various levels of patience. But maybe the worst thing you can do sometimes is, as you say, act on something that fell and go, shit, I better cash out now. If you feel that works for you, fine, do that. No one's gonna stop you doing it. It's a bit like the song Hotel California. You can check out, but you can't ever leave. No one's gonna say no,
yeah,
don't do that. And you're barred. Don't do that. But you strongly kind of advise not to say just check what you're doing here, type thing. Because as I said, it affects everybody. But as Christine put really well, it's like the impatience sell to the patience. So okay, they pick up a cheap bargain that they know is going to shoot right up eventually. So they'll keep it. Okay, I'll take that. I'll hoard it. And Christine gave a perfect example. She 4x'd on an item.
yeah,
That's her gain.
yeah,
So when I was saying
absolutely.
before about mistakes, that's what I mean. So like, sometimes we might get jumbled in our numbers and emotions and all this going on. Say, yeah, I better sell that now or make a decision. And then it turns out, I may have done that a bit better. I speak from experience in that, right? So, when we invested in Wukong and then became clear that okay, the thing now is to get out of Wukong.
Mm.
I didn't take that fully. So and I've had to sell some items at a loss, which in itself was a not Sean Connery there, mindset shift for me a little bit, where I'm like, okay, I don't like the physical aspect of making a loss because I've got a spreadsheet that
Yeah.
tags what I'm doing. Like shit, I have to put a figure in, and like my profit on that is a loss. Bloody hell! But I'm
Mm.
like, okay, it's not. It's a loss on that item, yes, because it's gone through the market, and that's actually a book loss. Fine, but you'll make it up in the other trading that's going on.
Yes.
So that to me actually took a little bit of delving because my subconscious immediately went, "Fuck, didn't want to do that." Couldn't we
Yeah,
have just sat there?
absolutely.
Can those items have just sat there and ultimately it will do something? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to deny that. There maybe at some point where Wukong does go back up and it's like, okay, back in the money again, but it's sitting there doing nothing. And if there's other opportunities going on from what I'm understanding, it makes sense to take a little bit of a book loss now, an actual loss, and then you've got some funds to realize the opportunities that are going on now. And one last thing I'll say is people might think, well, there's got to be a load of tech involved, and I've got no idea. uh, Places like our community is somewhere where you can get more understanding, walkthroughs, training about how this all looks like, and it's not as complicated as you think. But you do need to spend a little bit of time just understanding what do I click here, what does that look like, what does that look like, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I will drop the link in the description when I post this episode because I think it's really important that people know where to find
yeah,
some straightforward, really easily explained information about how this all works, what it even is,
yeah,
and what the principles are. Although, the point was made in previous interviews that unless you really put a little bit of money in the game, say $20, and you start to really see how it works and how the returns work and how the offers work and what the options are. I think unless you really do it, it's very hard to conceptualize because I know that I didn't really understand it until I was in it with a little bit of money. So I think
mm,
that's maybe the best way to get into the game if you're interested into that. And again, there's a lot of support in the community that you could use. So it's not just the crypto bros speaking,
mm,
seemingly Chinese and having all these terminology that you don't know about, because that's how I felt in the beginning. I was very confused about NFTs and what they were and what they were good for, and I was just going to ignore them. And now it's the
mm,
best thing that ever happened to me, and I can't stop thinking about my next strategy and what I'm going to do next. And it's become such a large part of my life already. So it's really interesting. So if someone is feeling overwhelmed, I would just suggest going to the community, finding out more, maybe even watching some YouTube, but that can be very complex. And there's some very complex videos out there. So you need to pick, the people that can explain it in the most human way, I guess,
yeah.
with as little machine talk as possible and as little coding talk as possible. But it is possible to find your way through it, understand it in simple terms, and decide for yourself what the next step looks like. So, in terms of the NFT space, Vishad, where do you think that's heading? Do you think it's going to grow and going to be a bigger part of society in the future, or do you think it's a fad?
I think the potential is there. Um, where the direction goes, I think there's still a bit of general skepticism out there because I think of these you only hear about these investments like the words crypto and NFT in a kind of negative light, right? I know Trump has said like he's going to put more into it recently, and I think even he created a meme coin at the time of the election, then it went down or whatever it might be.
Well, I've been airdropped some, and I'm going to be burning those tokens just for everyone to know.
Right, okay. Well, there we are. There's an
Yes.
example of what can happen, and also the chap here in the UK who's lost 600 million in a landfill.
Mm,
So for those of you who don't know, if you Google it, you'll find it. But essentially, this chap years ago invested in Bitcoin, and he put all the Bitcoin on a hard drive, a separate external hard drive that's now worth 600 million. And his girlfriend at the time chucked the hard drive away, and it's now sitting in a landfill site. And he's had a legal battle to try and get the hard drive back, but they said no. And now he wants to
yeah.
buy the landfill site and all this guy. So people hear about it and go, "Fuck, see, like." The
Yeah.
numbers might be big, but A, I'm not going to be able to get that, and B, how does it all work? And it feels a bit kind of in the air. And I think the more,
Mm.
as collections and tradings grow and get faster and higher in numbers, there is a chance here that it could phase people. So the same tenets still come back. Like, come back to yourself and ask yourself the questions: what works for you, and what do you want? That doesn't mean just act like a rogue agent and just do things just for you. Check in with the community. What are they saying? What are they talking about? What are people doing? What's the direction? And when you find communities like ours that are sharing things openly, transparently, we're all chatting and making a step together, then it's a better environment to work rather than a lone wolf. And that's also applied when you first start. If you try to start this on your own, okay, if you've got all the, like the background, the maths and all this kind of thing, you could, like Brian for himself, could have done this.
Mm.
But if he was going to look for the benefits of everybody moving along, because that's one of his values, which is really cool, then that's where a community aspect I think really works. Some people might look at this and hear about this and go, "Yeah, I want in," and others might go, "This is still a load of bollocks." Fine, both sides are valid. It's what's going to work for you. And again, I know it's a repeated message, but it's so important. Only put in if you want to. If you're sort of like saying, "Yeah, I want to try this out." Only put in what you can afford. Do not put your bill or food or mortgage money, that important money. Do not do that.
So, Vishad, if someone's listening to us and they're interested in NFTs or not, and they're also thinking about personal development, is there anything that you offer for people who might want to think about this a bit more, or who might want to do more with the shadow work or more with personal development in the future?
Yeah, sure. So if we specifically address NFTs and the world of crypto for a second, the community we've got, the Freedom NFT project, is, I think, your best first stop. Just go in there, not even investing, just have a look. You can join the conversation. It's for free, it's for public, it's all out there. There's no, like, you have to invest or anything. Just have a look what we're talking about. See if it's for you. That's all that it is. For me, in terms of like personal development, my group on school is Inner Peace Walker, Worth Waker, and I'm on Inner Peace Walker, all the other socials, etc. So I'm more about repairing and addressing self worth, which includes things like mindset, limiting beliefs, program experiences. We look to repair self worth from whatever angle you want to start on, and then create your path to your inner peace. And it could involve trading and NFTs and crypto if that's the thing you're looking for. But I will also say, on the personal development front, in the same way with NFTs, just get some info and find out what works for you. Same thing, find a coach that you feel works for you.
So, my last question for you, Vishad, and thank you so much for sticking it out with me to the bitter end of this episode. What's next for you in your investing journey? Are you planning to continue trading? Are you holding? Or are you going to do something completely different?
I'm pretty much a holder. Um, as I said, if I'm going for this long-term wealth creation, you'll need the patience. It won't happen overnight, and I'm all right with that. This long-term wealth can grow with a sizable portfolio. You can basically get your money back, because that's the technique we're doing at the moment, right? You can get your money back from your initial investment, and that's freed up to spend on other parts of the collections that are rising in value more. There's opportunities. I'll take a look.
Yeah, but that's the fun of being an investor versus an employee, isn't it? That when you move yourself over into the investor domain, you do have to understand that investments go up and down and that the
Yes.
market is volatile
Yes.
and that you're not always going to win. But it's about making a decision that is based on informed risk, right?
Yes.
Informed risk
Yeah.
taking versus an expectation of, getting a reward instantly, because this is not a job where if I put this much work in, I get this much out.
That's
Well,
right.
that's the employee mindset that most people live in and that I have lived in for most of my life, actually. I'm only just now starting to relax into this investor persona that I'm creating for myself and this new identity I'm taking on as a podcast host, as a coach, as a investor in NFTs. And it's a really interesting journey when you start to sort of shed your old skin and you start to understand that moving outside your comfort zone isn't going to be as bad as you think it is when you start to move there. You don't have to be afraid because you putting yourself in a solid position, you're using your strategies, and you can change the strategy if you notice that the movements in the market aren't matching up to your expectations. And you don't have to wait till you lost everything. You could sell it off earlier, mitigate the losses, recoup as much of your initial investment as possible, and invest in something else, or decide not to play anymore, right? That's also a choice you could make. So you're really in the control seat when it comes to investing, and it's a beautiful free feeling when you start to experience that, or at least that's my experience. So I want to thank everyone here for listening to us today, and hopefully see you in the next episode. Vishad, it's been my pleasure talking to you. We always have great conversations, and I hope to see you again in the community, and all the best with your investments and your journey on this path.
Likewise, thank you, Christine, for having me on the show. I hope it was helpful, and that people get an idea of what it's about. And look, reach out to likes of Christine, because she's a great person to chat to anyway. But she's got the same ideas about NFTs as I have, and we're all on this journey together. So look, good luck with whatever investment decisions you do look to make, or whatever decisions you get going forward. Again, I'm going to repeat it again. Only step in if you feel you're all right, all round, especially money wise, to make a step in.